Hello, everyone. So, just let's confirm that you can hear me because we have a lot of issues with a network reception today. So, I hope we will manage to to have this webinar. But can you hear me? Just give me some feedback. Are you there? Can you hear me loud and clear? Audio is good. Excellent. Great. So, thank you very much for you being here. And just let me introduce myself. So I'm moving into the background, and I will keep the slides open. So here I am, and here I am. So, um, today we will be discussing about high-tech entrepreneurship. So the way that we can bring an idea to life with all the elements that we need to know. So, by the way, I'm Theo. I am. Um, I started psychology, then to computer science, then to an MBA in financials. But all my life, I was building software, and all my life, I was bringing ideas to life. And now I'm exactly the same thing that I'm teaching in my students in NYU. And I said, as a chief strategy officer of growth hackers, why not doing the same course? Why not just explain the way that we see things happening? And that's exactly why we're here. So it will be a discussion that it will be fast paced. So we don't expect that. We expect that you will have a lot of questions. That's fine. You can send them over, and then I will be able to answer them. And um, and then you will also get the material. You will get the PDF. You will get the video. The, you that you are here, so you will get everything. And then obviously you can email me, or you can ask any questions you may have. Okay, because the agenda, as you will see the agenda from here, they're quite, we have a long agenda. So how we start from an idea, how we pre-launch, how we do the MVP, and what MVP means as well. That's also quite important. And then how we do the product market fit, which means understanding that people they would like to buy that, and then how we start monetizing. So that is the idea behind. And as you can imagine from the journey, it will be quite long. Okay. Now, that said, let's start from that. Some of them are terminology, and you will see some signs in the presentation. Some of them are examples, and some of them are things that they will actually change the way you think. So, and those are signed as such. So if you want to concentrate in just few slides, pick the slides with the brain. That's all. And then those slides will tell you the story. Okay, now introduction. So what's happening, and what we see more and more is that um, software is everywhere, right? So we used to use software for everything, from building websites down to analytics, down to social media, to attribution, to marketing automation. Everything is software. And because everything is software, we need to be good with software in order to survive. So that's the most important. That's what we need to remember. Now things are even worse, because dealing with software is even more part of our daily lives, right? So with ChatGPT, with vibe coding, and all these things, so we are able to control our own destiny by just putting some extra software into the picture. Okay, so the art of managing marketing is very much related to the art of managing software, which means if you will ask me what is the next skill set that I need to take, is you need to upskill into the technical stuff. That will be my first reaction, because I see a lot of people with great ideas into building stuff, and great ideas, business ideas, but without the proper capacity to implement stuff. And I feel that's the first gap that you need to fill. Now, that said, marketing is not one thing. Unfortunately, there are a lot of them. And although we just discussed about technical stuff, at the end of the day, marketing is all about the branding, the value proposition, and then is about the digital marketing, which is broadcasting everything that you're doing. And then it's about conversion, right? It's not about getting the leads, it's about converting the leads. It's turning the leads from marketing lead to actually booked sales. That's the idea. And then besides that is something that we call PLG growth, which is product marketing led, and which is when the growth is coming from within the product. And then besides that, there are other things that are quite important, which is sustainability, for example, and then is about AI and how you incorporate AI practices into your product and services, and how you incorporate sustainability practices in there. So when you do all of these, then you have the option um, of addressing the whole thing. And again, although we said it's all about technical stuff, or technical stuff are quite important, the idea behind is that at the end of the day is value proposition, right? You need to have something that people would like to have. So, and you need to describe it in the way which is appealing, and you need to convey the message the way that people they will not be able to resist, which is pure marketing, right? Then the question after that is how we implement that marketing into reality. Now, that said, there are different things the way we see the market evolving. Now, we used to have digital marketing, and digital marketing together with a lot of data technology is what we call growth marketing. We see those two merging nowadays. Now, besides that, we see moving from growth marketing into product led when we put a lot of feedback loops and data product integrations in our growth marketing stack. And then from there, we say, okay, now if we're able to create a marketing stack inside our product, then why not building the product ourselves? And now with AI and vibe coding, that is something that we can do. So that's the whole idea, and that's where the market is heading. And why it's important for us to do that? Because when we follow the trends, when we follow the flow, and we follow the wave of evolution, then we get the maximum of the return because of that evolution. Because the more we deal with the commoditized items, such as traditional digital marketing, the more supply exists, a lot of demand, but supply is higher. When that's happening, then the result is low prices. So, and that's why you don't want to serve a market that is actually pushing you all the time for lower pricing, right? So you need to go somewhere that it makes sense to deliver premium services. And growth marketing and PLG and AI and all the new stuff, the evolutionary things are there for that, right? So now PLG is nothing more than just getting all the marketing elements that you know very well, and then put those within your product. So starting the feedback loops and virality and everything, not from social media, from the product itself. Okay, so that is what we call a product, and there are specific procedures about that, and then you may read books about that. You may ask our playbooks on product led. There are many things that we can help you with when you want to come up with a product led growth strategy. uh, Obviously that means that you need to have a product, because product led growth without having a product makes no sense. So you need a product, you need um, even if that product is a service or a productized service, whatever of the three, then you are able to productize it. It could just be a course, and that course is what we call an info product, right? A course is nothing more than an info product, which means that you may implement the same product-led approach even into pure educational course or leadership management or whatever services you offer. Now, What is no code is actually when we use different tools such as vibe coding or different platforms, integrating different platforms to come up with faster launches, better tools, uh, less cost reduction. The problem with building a product is that it takes so much of our financial resources that we end up coming up with a great product but with no budget to promote it. And that's exactly what we try to avoid. That's what we always advise entrepreneurs to keep a bunch of the money that they have for promotion, because otherwise they have no chance. A great product could be great in reality, but if people they will not know about that, then you get nothing out of that. So that's why even a less perfect product with an audience is better than a perfect product with no audience. Okay. Now, that said, doing this kind of no code marketing, it makes sense for marketplaces, info products, e-commerces, services, or even SaaS products, whatever. Now with vibe coding, you are able to come up with your own SaaS product. And if not the final one, you can come up with something like 80% of that by yourself, and without involving and utilizing other resources. So, which I mean, development. So you can keep the developers for the important stuff. Uh, that there are some important stuff that only developers will take care of, but the rest, the rest 80% of that, it's something you can do yourself. And people they were saying that when we use no code or when we integrate different platforms, our our startup has no value, which is such a big mistake, because even Stripe is saying the opposite, everybody is saying the opposite, um, investors are saying the opposite, VC firms or angel investors, all of them, they do believe that agility is more important than something that took us 2 years to implement, and it's perfect, but it will be hard to pivot, because at the end of the day, what we need is something that it will test the market, it will test the waters as early as possible, and if it needs to change, it needs to change. Period. That's all. So that's why no code is good for them, and it's good for you, it's good for everybody. Now, the truth is that we cannot predict the future. So if you would ask us about Clubhouse or Be Real or TikTok, most probably I wouldn't give you the same answer. If you would ask me about TikTok 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I would say, I don't believe that there is a space for another video related Instagram, because Instagram is there. So why not implementing video? They didn't have video back then. So, but still, TikTok became TikTok, and Clubhouse disappeared, and Be Real is about to disappear. So you see, it's very important. It's very hard to predict the future, and because it's very hard to predict the future, you need to be very agile. So you need to fail fast. You need to implement things that you will be able to pivot into something else. So that's why you need to work into with the systems, and you need to do the innovative and high tech entrepreneurship that we're talking about, because entrepreneurship alone was a bit slow. Now, high tech entrepreneurship is introducing data insights, experimentation, and continuous calibration, and that's exactly what it makes a medium product and an average product into a great one, because they incorporate data insights, they incorporate, they experiment with the user reaction, and they come up with continuous calibration and pivots. Could be minor pivots, could be major pivots, but continuously up to the moment that they fit the market. So that is what we call high tech entrepreneurship. And that's exactly what we need to come up with a final result. Now, in order to do that, yes, obviously we need some skills, and upskilling ourselves is all we can do for us. It's actually the largest asset that you may have, right? So, and for that, you need to know a bit of digital marketing, which makes sense, right? So about marketing automation and conversion, and then SEO, how to get users, and then paid ads, and then email marketing. You need to know this kind of stuff. You need also to be active in those media. You know how difficult it is when I hear an entrepreneur willing to get users saying that, no, I'm not on social media, I'm not a social media guy, I don't want to do that. And I say, yeah, but it's very important. Having followers, having a network, having people that are listening to you or influenced by you is quite important in the journey. So you need to do that. You need to expose yourself. There is no other way. So and then you need to know about data, analyzing data, clustering data, attributing data, and building funnels and all this stuff. You need to be good with them, because if you are not, and if you don't have the team to do so, that means that you will not even understand that you need those. And without the know-how of how you analyze data and where data are coming from, you cannot even decide where you spend your money wisely, or where to spend your money wisely. So that's one of the problem that you have. And that's why, if you have unknown words in what these are, for example, clustering or attribution, Google them, and you will see what you need to learn. There are so many courses about that. Growth Hacking University is offering a great resource for you. We have playbooks. There are so many courses in Coursera. If you find nothing, just ask me. I will give you the resources for you to learn the things that you need to learn, so that you get the shortcuts, that you don't do mistakes that you could avoid. Because mistakes are good, but if they happen once, is good. If they're happening again and again, are bad. And if they happen and you fix them fast, that is also good, because we learn from mistakes, right? But if they take a lot of time to be identified and then to be resolved, that's exactly where the problem starts. Okay. Now, other than that, we need coding and engineering, right? So coming up with new landing pages, coming up with automations, coming up with all kind of apps, all kind of lead magnets by yourselves, by writing some vibe coding, or by even building a WordPress with Elementor, or by utilizing APIs, or doing some scrapping and getting data from different sources. These are things that you need to know. And something, what I realized is that these kind of things, they are giving you confidence, and it makes entrepreneurs very comfortable with what's happening, because otherwise they have to rely to third parties. And third parties are good, but at some point you need actually to understand that you need to speak the same language with them. Otherwise, it will not work. So even if you decide that you don't want to do things yourself, such as vibe coding or building your own lead magnet, that's fine. But you need to know the bit and byte of everything, even if you decide to deliver that or ask that from a third party. You need to know the topic, right? And then the last thing is about creative. And by creative, we mean, aesthetically, do aesthetically nice things, which means Canvas or video editing, or even nice things on Gemini or the brand new ChatGPT image generation. It's easy. It's easy to create nice things nowadays. It was a bit more difficult before. Now, with all the AI tools, the result is pretty beautiful by default. So there is no excuse. If I see someone coming with an idea to me saying, we have nothing, we have not a landing page, we have nothing, I'm saying, but why? It will take you a day to come up with something that it makes sense. That's all. So that said, I feel those four are quite important for you to invest. And how we do that? How can you get these four all together? Academically, you will not, right? Because you will have one of them, maybe two of them. But if you want to do more, you need to actually invest in learning the rest. Now, here, based on General Assembly, they were saying that in between the traditional digital marketeers and growth marketeers, they used to call them marketects, there is a 73% skill gap. And that's because of the data skills and because unfamiliarity with technology, which is, again, not an excuse. AI needs to be part of our daily lives, right? And we need to deliver it with AI, and we need to do all this stuff with AI. And you need to remember that the first growth hacker of the company needs to be the founder of the company. Okay, that is also quite important. So and believe me, it's not the case very often. So we see a lot of times that the founder is disconnected from the operations. And I feel, out of my experience all these years, I ended up believing that only if the entrepreneur, the founder, is connected with the operations or performing operations by himself or herself, that is um, a great prerequisite for success. So that's why I always like founders being involved. Now, now let's start from the basics, right? Starting with an idea. Now, starting with an idea, the reality is that you don't know if there is a demand, how difficult it is for you to get position. You don't know. That's the reality. But there is someone who knows. And if you believe it's Google, yes, it is. And if you believe it's ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or Copilot or AI, besides Gemini, because Gemini is Google actually, so they don't. And they don't because they don't know two important information, which is very important for you, which is the how many keywords people are, what are the keywords and the volumes that people are searching. Because in order for you here to understand the demand, you need to understand how many people are searching for what I'm doing or what I'm planning to do. And then the second thing that you need to know is, okay, I see people searching for this kind of stuff, but how many others they search? So what's the competition out there? Do I have any chance to succeed in doing so? Or this is something that I will not manage to end up with, right? So, and that's why in order for you to do so, you need to start with a keyword research. And keyword research is something quite easy, meaning, and it just requires a tool for doing so. So please don't use just ChatGPT for keyword research. It will lack a lot of information, so, and it will end up with you getting wrong information rather than the complete info set that you need. So talking about keywords, there is something which called informational keywords, navigational keywords, transactional, and commercial, which is the intent of the keywords, why people are searching. Because when people are searching for growth hacking, this is an informational intent. They try to learn. When people are searching for growth hacking agency, that is a commercial intent because they're looking to buy something, right? You see the difference? Now, you need to keep a balance. You don't need just to have one intent. You need to cover a few of them. Now, that said, we need to understand that we used to have keyword based searching on Google, right? But now on ChatGPT, we have intent based searching. And what we see is that more and more people are searching with more than one or two or three words. They're putting sentences. Why? Because ChatGPT and all AI is good with natural language processing. So they will be able to read everything that they need. They will read your question, prompt, and then they will answer. And even AI overview is doing that, which means that there is the option of getting answers into long questions. And you know something, the longest the question is, the intention to buy is higher. Just imagine if you just describe what is growth hacking, or how can I find a growth hacking agency to work with my business. So those two are not different because of the intent, it's different because of the number of languages the number of words. And the more words I'm using, the more specific I am. And the more specific I am, less answers I will get. But those answers will have a great intent. Okay. Now, and as we said before, we need to understand two important elements. One is the keyword's difficulty, which is actually how many other people they are searching for that keyword. And the second one is the volume. And the volume is always by country. So we need to understand how many people we are getting from the target market. Okay. So that is about keyword research. And then normally what's happening is that with all the LLM visibility, we need to understand where we are and how, when we add the prompt, when people are searching something on ChatGPT or Perplexity, how many times we end up, how many times our competitors will appear, and all this stuff. So that is a typical thing about LLM visibility. Now, let's assume that I do have an idea. Okay, oh, let me just get my charger. Apologies for that. Give me a second. So here I am. So we are back with proper power now. Sorry for that. So that said, let's go back to the presentation. And here we are. So now that we have the idea, we need to pre-launch. And that will be our first experiment. There are different ways of doing that. And believe me or not, a lot of entrepreneurs, they do afraid of that. And what I'm saying is you shouldn't. Because you know something, that's the first experiment. You have nothing to lose. Nothing will happen. Even if some people will say that what you have is not good, that's fine. It's a nice thing getting that feedback early on. That's what you need to do. And that's fine doing so. Now, there are 5 lessons. We use one of our last exit was a company named Viral Loops, and we were doing exactly that. We were running pre-launch campaigns. Believe me, we ran a lot, and we get into some conclusions out of that. So 5 lessons learned after running all these tons of pre-launch campaigns. So the first one is that you need to have a nice milestone incentive, so to incentivize people. Why somebody will launch or a pre-launch campaign? Why? What's the reason behind that? And what do they have to win? Is that a big thing or more things that are lower value? And people, I ended up understanding that we actually need the latter, which means we need to have different milestones. We need to have something that people they feel that they could achieve. Otherwise, I could say a house or a car or whatever. People they don't believe they will ever win, right? Because that is not a pre-launch campaign, that's a lottery. But getting something smaller or lower price every time you do something of value, that's something people they do believe that they could actually do. That's the idea. And so milestone structure, smaller gifts achieve based on achievement and based on the activities that they deliver value to you and obviously delivering value to them as well. Now, the second one is that, you know, word of mouth counts for 80% of the total virality, which means people, they will share with each other. And it needs to be very simple. You cannot just say to somebody that, look, I know this application is great and you need to use my code AB3CDAZ hashtag whatever. It will never happen. If you say that, look, that's a great application, use my name, and then you will be awarded. That's all. So that's why we need always to make these word of mouth very, very easy. And that's the whole thing. Now, the third one is that you need a concept. Why people will try to will get into your campaign? What's the reason behind that? Okay, they will win some gifts. Okay, that's fine. That was one of the five things we just said, right? Which is correct. The second one is why? Because most founders, they will answer here, because they will be early adopter. And who wanna be early adopter? Early adopter is something that we call them early adopters. People, they don't like being called early adopters, right? So that's why the name, which is, we call it the DNA of the campaign, is quite important, right? If you call it join us, or become an ambassador, or share some love, or brand lovers, or feedback seeking, whatever, you see how you call the campaign and the reason that you are actually building that campaign, it plays a great role. So you need to be there. You need to spend some time thinking the concept of the pre-launch campaign, giving some reasons why people will actually join. Okay. Now you need to remember a few things, that despite if you will decide to share different channels, such as I know campaigns that they ask me to share a link on a QR code, and then a WhatsApp, and then Facebook, and then Messenger, and then or email, all the open channels. We ended up understanding that 80% of the referrals, they were coming from one channel, and that one channel was Facebook for B2C, and it used to be email for B2B, which is very interesting. So if you know that, you may say, I will try some of the other channels, but I will not spend a lot of money in those channels, because I know where my referrals will come from. Okay, and the next one is that you can actually promote your pre-launch campaign in different communities, from Facebook groups to Reddit to Product Hunt to Beta List. There are so many communities of early adopters by name that you could use, and that's a great idea. So find your audience and then communicate with them what you want to sell. Now, after that, even pre-launch, right? Because you don't have a product yet. So you need to come up with a product. And that's exactly what we will be discussing now. And coming up with a product does not necessarily means, or does not mean at all, coming up with a PowerPoint, right? Or a keynote. No, it's about building an MVP. And building an MVP, it used to be something like a cell or a facade to something that you want to build. You don't have any reason doing that anymore. That used to be before any kind of funding, when you didn't have enough money to deliver the whole thing. And that's why you were creating something that it was almost nothing, and you were actually losing the users that they wanted more, right? But still, building an MVP is great. What you need to do is that you need to select those features on your MVP that it will be called that users will actually use, and will get a great idea of what you can deliver. And we used to call that minimum viable product, MVP. Now we change a bit the name. We call it most valuable product. So because minimum viable product is something that we were selecting the features with those that we were believing they were okay for our first version. But the problem was that the okay features were never the features that they were making people to convert and people to feel ecstatic about that. If people they don't feel ecstatic about that, then they will not share, or they will not come back. That's the point, and you miss an opportunity there. So that's why you need to select your features very carefully. You need to move from a viral product, a minimum viral product, to a most valuable product. Select less features that they do make an impact. That's what you need to do. And doing that, I feel that it will give you all the chances that you have for people to love you. And you want people to love you. Because the moment that this is happening, then that's the time for virality. You cannot, when people are actually cold or they're not interested of your product, asking them to refer a friend, it makes no sense. They will never refer a friend unless they will fall in love. So everything that you do is for them to fall in love. As simple as that. So pick your features very carefully, because that is a make or break when you create your MVP. Now, sometimes you believe that MVP is nothing more than the features. Not exactly. That's a typical mistake that entrepreneurs are doing. They feel that they want to build an email a system, for example, for a particular use case, but then they don't understand that, and what they have in mind is the yellow box that you see there, which is just the product with the features. But then they forget that on top of that, there are other things that they need to remember. Because when people they get into your system for the very first time, they know nothing, right? You need to give them a first time experience. And then you need to help them in the onboarding phase. And then you need to help them moving along and experiencing the product. The people they don't think of that. They think of features. And thinking of features is good, but it's not enough, right? And then besides that, you know features are great, but if you cannot, let's say for example that you have an onboarding phase, and you ask people to, you are sending an email, and then if they will give you the email, you are sending an email, you are sending them a pin, and then they use that pin, and then they are able to get into your application. And obviously that part is not part of the feature, right? Because the features start from that point on. Now, what's happening when people are not receiving the email? Simply they cannot get into your app. You see, that's the point. And you don't know that because you didn't have the need for you to collect this kind of information, and that's why you don't know that people are not actually getting the email up to the moment that somebody will actually complain. But people they don't complain for something which is not something that they actually care about yet. If they will, then if they will be in love with that, you will see, you will get a ton of support requests for not getting the email, that something stopping them from experiencing your product. But till then, nobody will tell you that. Okay. And then you need to come up with all kind of cues and all kind of data visualization for you to understand what's happening. And you need to decide upon, because that is a great thing for you to judge how far you've gone, and what are the impact that you have to users. And for that you need the core features, yes, obviously, but then you need some other features that we call product management features. And here are some examples so that you know what you need to do. One of them is what we call product experience platforms, platforms like Gensight or Pendo or Intercom, that will help users to do so. Or you can build your own product experience platform on vibe coding if you like. And the idea is, and what you need to always remember is that users that they get into your app for the very first time, they need to get a different experience from users that they keep coming every day. That's all. If you know that, then you will find a way of doing so. And in front of you, you will see three different alternatives. And as I said, vibe coding is one that you can use as well. Now, besides that, you need more. You need marketing automation, right? You need to nurture things. Most Entrepreneurs, they don't understand that their apps are not love at first sight. They're not. People, they will come, they will leave. You need to bring them back. They will leave again. You need to bring them back. It's a continuous battle of you getting the users to experience what you have done. If they will and they don't like it, that's another story. But you need to make sure that they have this experience, and that's why you need Go High Level, you need HubSpot, you need Active Campaign, you need Intercom, different applications that they are covering these emailing stuff with emailing, or could be WhatsApp, could be text messages for your own users, making sure that they had the chance to experience your product. Okay, and then uh, you need to use platforms like CDPs, like customer data platform, or you need to build your own CDP. You need to make sure that you consolidate data that are coming from different channels, and then you know where the users are, what the users are doing, or potential users. Because some users, let's assume that you have a SaaS product, and let's assume that you are getting users through SEO or through paid ads, and then you have some lead ads that are actually collecting data. So how you know the user that has come through lead ad, or those that are actually created through the website or through a traditional paid ads on keywords. You see, these are different. And why these are different? Because the intent is different. Because the one who actually visited your website, they know more than those that they just click a lead ad. And you need to understand that. You need to segment the database so that you don't get into wrong conclusions. Because maybe you believe that users are not interested of your product, but in reality, they never know what the product is, or they never had the chance to experience your product. Okay, and that's why you need this kind of data, and then you need product analytics, so analyzing your funnel, analyzing your onboarding, understanding what the users are dropping off. So that's the whole thing. And you see that at the end of the day, the features that you were believing were just a small part of the user experience. Just see this diagram in front of you, right? The app is here on the left. Here is the app, right? So, but the app is not working alone. It needs to work with all the other applications that they could be developed, or they could be just integrated for you to have something that you are able to analyze, you are able to nurture, and you are able to actually understand what's happening with your app. All of them, they could be part of your app if you like, but most probably that would cost you quite a lot. For example, you don't want to build your own way of sending text messages. It's better for you at that early stage to integrate with a vendor that is delivering text messages, right? You don't want to build your own dashboards of data analytics. Maybe it makes sense to utilize Mixpanel or any application at first that will give you the product analytics, and then you will decide what's happening. Okay. Now, the step 3 out of that is that you need to build a growth plan. You need to understand what you need to do for you to succeed. And that's the next step. And the next step here is that you need to define some pillars, that these are the pillars of success, right? We call it the growth recipe, which is the question here is very simple. Which are the elements that if they will happen, you will grow? That's all. And then you say, okay, it's about getting more users. It's about users converting and being activated. It's about users converting from free to paid. You need to put this down. The interesting part when you put this down is that you will realize that people, they have different definitions of what each of these items mean. And for example, you will talk about user activation. If I will ask you what is user activation, you will give me 10 different opinions of what user activation means. And it makes sense. We need, and I'm not saying there is one correct definition of user activation. User activation is a ton of things. Okay, and it's not about agreeing on what user activation is. User activation, because that we will all agree, user activation is when a user is getting the aha moment and is ready to buy. That is an activated user. An activated user is a user which is ready to move to the next step. Now the question is when that's happening. If I need to get into bit and byte of what an activated user means, that is where definition starts differentiating, right? Because some may tell me that is when Facebook, for example, is saying that activated user is a user that has been invited 5 friends, and that's the focus. And then somebody else will tell me, no, activated user is on Facebook, for example, is a user that has been posted for the very first time. You see, both of them are correct. By the way, on Facebook, they believe the first. They believe that activated user is a user that is actually inviting his friends or her friends. So, but that's the idea. The idea is sitting down with my team or with myself or with my co-founders, finding the growth recipe. And then for each of those pillars of the recipes, you need to define one North Star metric, and then one or two supportive KPIs. That's all, right? So how do we measure acquisition? And people, they will say acquisition is people that are actually getting into our application. Some others will say no, the metric of user acquisition is actually clicking the sign up button, because the other thing is about onboarding, right, which is different from acquisition. Different things. And here again, there is no right or wrong. You may decide whatever you like, but you need to put them down in written, and then all the tasks that you will be doing needs to map those things. And that's the whole thing. That's the idea behind creating a growth recipe and creating the pillars. You need, and creating the metrics. You need to decide that if everything that I'm about to do from that point on will not help me to affect these numbers, it shouldn't be done. That's the idea. Okay, that's why you are doing this exercise, to stop all the bad ideas from being implemented, because they don't deserve to be implemented, because they will not affect these numbers. Okay, obviously there is a simple what you see you hear now is a bit simplified, but because there is the depth of what I'm telling you is quite more, and there is a great depth here, and if you want, you can ask me and I will provide you information about the full depth of the process. Now, we got that from Amazon. This is what you see here in front of you is Amazon's growth recipe, same pillars, different metrics, and that's all. And then what you need to remember is that throughout your different brainstormings, you need to have a set of tactics, and each tactic will affect one KPI. And you keep doing that, right? You keep doing that, and that's what we call the growth machine. So you understand why getting the numbers out will help you to understand what was the performance. Then you have some goals, and then you need to understand if the goals and the performance, they actually match. If not, you have all the data to understand what you're liking and how you can fix that. You do the brainstorming, you prioritize, because ideas are easy, so everybody will come up with an idea of fixing a problem. You prioritize that based on specific prioritization frameworks. Then you create an experiment, you implement, you analyze the results, and you either systemize or you drop it. That's the idea. That's the growth machine. It it it's something I could explain in 2 minutes. It's something I couldn't explain in 2 days. Right? The depth of a growth machine is there, but now you know where you can start searching and googling. And if that reminds you something, yes, it is nothing more than the agile methodology of the developers on marketing. That's all on your product. It's exactly the same approach. We got them, we borrow that from developers, we put it on marketing on product, and that's the way we are building now, and we're growing by using what developers were always using, always, not always, but what they were using to deliver an agile product rather than a waterfall approach. That's the whole thing. Now, and from that point on, you need to understand the product market fit, which means you need to make sure that you have the correct message, and the message is being validated with your personas and with your metrics and everything. So that's the most important of all, right? So you have different messages, different personas with each one in different landing pages. You do that, you create ads, you deliver people to these pages because you need statistical significance, and then you analyze, and then you know what's happening. As simple as that. Okay. And then if you want to do a product market fit, there are a few things that we say always about product market fit. That first of all is that you need to make sure that you have the first leading indicator. It depends on the phase. In traction phase is actually a survey. So asking people if they would use your product, that is enough. And if they would introduce your product to somebody else, that is also enough. And the second one is that you need to collect data that they do make sense for you. For example, downloading your app, not necessarily the best metric. It could be a vanity metric, or it could be a metric that an investor will see. But what you care about is actually users in your app. And sometimes that's not even enough. Because creating an account now with OAuth is so simple, right? You click the Gmail, you have your Gmail account, you create an account, boom, you're in, and then you stop, you do nothing because you don't know what to do, or because you don't see what you came for. That is also another thing, right? So that's why we have different indicators to understand if we do have product market fit or not. So the two first are clear. The third one is retention curve, how often users are coming back. And for me, that is the most important. If I see users using my app again and again, that means that it gives them value. It gives me frustration, yes, but it gives them value, right? The stickiness, how sticky the application is a great indicator. If I need to select any of the three, that is my indicator. And I need to do everything making sure that people are actually using the system again and again. And I have different examples here. I will not walk you through these, but you will see that later when I will share with you the presentation. Now, um, and then from that point on, how do we make money? That's the next thing, right? And making money is about building a funnel, because at the end of the day, people, they don't, a small percentage of the people that you will actually address is ready to buy today. And that is something like a 3%, 4% of the users that you will be reaching, they are ready to buy. Now, another percentage, something like up to 10%, they're open to be convinced. But that is all. That's all. 10% of the users at maximum is ready to buy at a short time. The rest of them, they're even not thinking about it, or they don't even think that they're interested, or they don't even know what you're talking about, right? So, and that's about nurturing. That's about convincing the 90% of the users that that what you have is useful for them. That's why you need the funnel. Okay. And you need to remember that it takes something like 5 to 13 touches to generate a sales qualified lead, which means that if you will not get into the opportunity of creating a top of mind strategy, so people, they see you again and again, then they will never convert. So you miss an opportunity there. And that's why you always need to build a sequence of activities, of things happening again and again. Okay, now, and when that's happening, you need to revisit monetization. At first, you know how many discussions I had with founders saying that, Theo, I don't know what the price should be. And my answer is always, don't bother. It's too early for you at the very early traction phase to come up with the pricing. The pricing is not important for now. Get the users, make them use your app, get feedback, and even if they will get the application for free, that's fine. When you will be very successful, there will always be a bunch of users that they got the application for free. That's okay. It will be a small portion of the users that you will have. Okay, that's all. So now is the time to revisit monetization. Now is the time to revisit churn, because now you have the statistical significance for you to revisit churn. Not too early. Too early is too early. Period. If you have 3 users and you lose 2 of them, that means nothing. If you have 2,000 users and you lose 15, that is something that you need to deal with. Okay, for revisiting churn and for revisiting monetization, you need users, you need feedback, and you need statistical significance. Okay, and then you need to revisit insights. So when you have users, you need to understand what the users are doing, how the users are behaving, how often the users are coming. With just one user, that means nothing, right? Again, for this kind of stuff, you need statistical significance, which means that you need to keep a part of the budget for you to drive those users in your app to get these insights. That's the idea. Okay, and then you need to revisit attribution. You need to make sure where the users are coming from and which channels. Now is the time to do so. Because when you don't have channels, or when you have just one channel, attribution is not that important because you have one channel. You don't care. But the moment that you will open up TikTok and then Facebook ads and then Instagram ads and then Reddit ads and then programmatic SEO, you need to understand where the users are coming from. And you need to understand what are the percentage of the participation of each channel to the attribution. That's also very important, because the users, they will see the ad, right? They will get into your application. They may create a user or they may not. Then they will leave. You will do some retargeting. You will bring them back, and then they will get an email. That's fine. So, and then they will come back again through the email. They will leave again, and then they will see another ad, a different one, and then they will decide to convert. Now, to whom are you attributing this sale? That's the thing, right? And that is now is the time to revisit attribution, when you end up with multiple channels that they all work in parallel to convey the message and convince the user to convert. Okay, and then you need to build a sales strategy. And a sales strategy is not a strategy that fits all. So it depends from the different persona. A lot of users, they are a lot of applications, they are two-side applications, right? They have supply and demand. And then these two, they need to be in sync. But in any case, the sales formula is so clear that you need to build top of funnel, and then you need to build the nurturing part. And you cannot just put a lot of time into the nurturing without having the top of funnel, because you don't have enough users. So those two, they need to come together, because top of funnel will bring the leads and nurturing will actually push people down the funnel. And those two, they need to come equally. Because if you have that information and if you have the funnel, then you are able actually to understand what is the problem and how you can fix it. If you see these 3 different funnels, you will see that although the numbers of impressions on the very top are exactly the same, then at the end of the day, they get the middle company, they get 120 sales per month, the other one 40, and the other one 4. Now the question is, which one is the best one? And the answer here from most of the people is the one that brings 120, because the conversion rate is nice. Out of 100,000, we get 120. That is not always the correct. It's not actually. But the point is, it does matter. You can create these kind of thoughtful discussions because you have mapped out your funnel. And the moment you did that, then you can analyze and you can get into amazing insights because you analyzed everything and because you know where the users get dropped off. Okay. Now, and to use that, you may use different techniques. One of that is what we call the growth engineering canvas, where you map out your funnel and your activities of the funnel, and then you push people down. And then that's a way that you see that. If you are interested of the growth engineering canvas, just let me know, and I will send you the full document and the full playbook, so that you know exactly how to map out your funnel. So, and then you may do social selling, and which is actually not selling, is about running LinkedIn campaigns on social, and then you are able to see your clients without being selling, but you see the users and you nurture them all the time up to the moment that you decide that you will actually bring them on the website to convert when you feel that they're ready to buy, not before that, right? So that's the whole idea of social selling. And then it's about discovering audiences, which is actually see where the audiences are, right? There are directories and the marketplaces and the sites with high authority. There are so many channels that they own your audience. So you need to find them, you need to get them, and then from that point on, it's very easy for you to start addressing because the audience is there. It's just that you don't know that, right? But your audience is in these places. Okay, and then you need to start leveraging communities, and there's so many different communities. There are job marketplaces, there are submission based catalogs. So that is how you do that. You have product hunt, and then all these things are for you there to to grasp. Okay, now remember two things. When your competitor strives to be better, you can be faster. And what we're saying, that the early bird get the worm, right? So it's very important for you to be agile. It's very important for you to be fast. So that is all. If you need and if you have some questions, you will get that information out. So it will be it will be open up the discussion, and that is all. And any questions that I may answer here. So uh, NM is asking about UTM. Yes, UTM is a great thing on attribution. Unfortunately, we're not getting UTMs from everywhere. So you get UTMs from your own channel. We cannot get UTMs from channels that you do not control, and you cannot convince the people to put the UTMs in there. So unfortunately, you need to move beyond the UTM, and you need to be more smart in collecting the information. So so another thing here, how you can reach me, you have the QR code. I took it out, but you can reach me easily by just putting here Theo at growthhikers.com. You can reach me there. You can reach me on LinkedIn, on my profile. Feel free. I will always be responsive. And yes, Kamisa, I will provide the copy of the slides. I will provide the copy of the video, so you will be able to rewatch the video. I don't know if you want to spend another hour listening to me, but but in any case, I will provide you everything, and then I will be able and I will be open to any kind of questions. So thank you very much for your time. And what I see here as another comment is from NM saying that a poor product with good marketing is better than a good product with bad marketing. I said that, right? NM, thank you for confirming and agreeing with me. So that's great. So I see Camisa was asking and NM was actually replying. Great. Thank you, NM, for assisting me into that. So yes, that's what I said indeed. So Excellent. So thank you very much for your time, and I will be around. Bye for now.